Netflix just premiered a new documentary about Martha Stewart, and you know who's not a fan of it? Martha. This is one of the most Martha Stewart things I have ever seen. In a new interview with the New York Times, the queen of domestic life was scathing in her critique of the R.J. Cutler documentary. R.J. Cutler has made a lot of prestigious docs before, and Netflix knows a thing or two about the genre also. But Martha would have done things very differently because she's Martha Stewart. So, what does Martha take issue with? A lot. Let's begin with her archive. Stewart says that she gave R.J. Cutler total access to her entire archive, pictures, letters, video, and she's very peeved is the word I was trying to think of. She's very annoyed that R.J. Cutler and Netflix used very little of all of that material that they could have. She called that shocking and upsetting, and they had total access. And that's only the beginning of her review. Martha somewhat enjoyed the first half of the documentary, but the second half, not so much. She called that a bit lazy. And Martha, being Martha, she tried to take editorial control of the film and was denied. Specifically, she hated the last scenes because Martha thinks that it depicts her as a lonely old lady. She explains, quote, "Those last scenes with me looking like a lonely old lady walking hunched over in the garden. Boy, I told him to get rid of those, and he refused. I hate those last scenes. Hate them. I had ruptured my Achilles tendon. I had to have this hideous operation, and so I was limping a little. But again, he doesn't even mention why. That I can live through that and still work 7 days a week." She also took issue with the camera angles used. Literally. A diva knows her angles. Martha tells the Times, quote, "He had 3 cameras on me, and he chooses the ugliest angle. And I told him, don't use that angle. That's not the nicest angle. You had 3 cameras. Use the other angle. He would not change that." The next problem in her litany of items, the music. Martha slammed R.J. Cutler, the director, for using a lousy score when she wanted hip-hop. She wanted Snoop. Martha tells the New York Times, quote, "I said to RJ, an essential part of the film is that you play rap music. Dr. Dre will probably score it, or Snoop, or Frederick. I said, I want that music. And then he gets some lousy classical score in there, which has nothing to do with me." In R.J. Cutler's defense, he did include one Snoop song in the closing credits. There was a lot of content, things that Martha revealed that weren't included that she wished were, such as an anecdote that she shared about how her lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, remember that name, was practically, quote, dribbling on the table while flirting with her in the 1960s when she was married. Martha also questioned why her grandchildren didn't make the cut. They didn't even get a mention. That's weird. I guess because it doesn't fit with the lonely old lady narrative. In her eyes, R.J. Cutler also failed to capture what made her Martha Stewart Living magazine so special. She says, quote, my Martha Stewart magazine, which you might say is traditional, was the most modern home magazine ever created. We had avant-garde photography. Nobody This is one of the most brilliant things ever. Nobody ever showed puff pastry the way I showed puff pastry. Or the glossaries of the apples and the chrysanthemums. And we prided ourselves so much on all of that modernism. And he didn't get any of that. Instead, Martha thinks he focused the director too much on her criminal trial from back in 2004. You know, where she was convicted of felony insider trading. Martha says it was not that important. The trial and the actual incarceration was less than 2 years out of an 83-year life. I considered it a vacation, to tell you the truth. The trial itself was extremely boring. Even the judge fell asleep. RJ didn't even put that in. The judge was asleep at the bench. I wrote it in my diary every day. For his take, RJ countered, telling the New York Times, quote, "I admire Martha's courage in entrusting me to make it. I'm not surprised that it's hard for her to see aspects of it. It's a movie, not a Wikipedia page. It's the story of an incredibly interesting human being who is complicated and visionary and brilliant." And this is one of the most brilliant videos I have ever made. I will never forget this. She's 83 years old, okay? She is what an 83-year-old is and how they would respond. I love it. I love it. What do you think of this all, my friend? Let me know in the comments.